Master Chief should die, but John should live. How is this possible? Let's find out. Hey guys, welcome back to Installation 00. This is another vlog video. Today, I just want to go back and touch upon a video I released a short while ago called Chief is Going to Die. In that video, I discussed that Chief at some point or another is going to die. I had a very mixed response to the video and a thread on Twitter that inspired it, but in particular, one comment stood out to me. It was a comment from a guy called Crabdog, and the spirit of the comment was actually referenced in a couple of the other tweets as well. In short, Crabdog put the argument forward that Master Chief should die, but John should live. The original comment explained it in brief, but it left a lasting impression, so with their permission, I decided this video needed to happen, and I've expanded upon it descriptively a little bit. I'm going to make some assumptions that perhaps Chief's story will come to an end at the close of the war with the Created. It might not, but let's just set the stage for what I'm really here to discuss. And it does have some relatively compelling evidence, so allow me to lay out a little narrative first, and then we'll get to how Master Chief should die. So have a little listen and tell me what you think. The war with the Created that ultimately culminates above Earth is raging. All of humanity and Sangheili all fight against the Created. Chief is tasked with taking down the leader of the Created and thus ending the war. Initially thought to be Cortana, he travels to Genesis, the access point to the domain, the planet we visited in Halo 5. Chief knows more about the nature of the domain after further communication with the essence of the librarian existing in a Forerunner complex beneath Mount Kilimanjaro, and she has taught him more about his Gesh. You'll know from my video about 343 Guilty Spark that another essence of the librarian does in fact exist on Earth. At Genesis, the Warden Eternal expels Cortana from the domain, finally taking charge due to her many attempts at saving Chief's life, on top of the initial betrayal of forcibly taking over the domain in the first place when she first arrived. Warden attacks and kills her in front of the Chief. Chief attempts to avenge her but is suddenly locked into a stasis field. The Warden moves towards Chief, his voice slowly morphing from the Warden's to the Didact's and back again. The Warden then reveals that the composed essence of the Didact had survived Chief's attack at the Composer's Forge, and had found his way to the domain, where he merged with the Warden after Cortana had proven herself to be unworthy of the mantle during the closing events of Halo 5. He informs Chief he will now bear witness to all of humanity being destroyed as he employs the use of the Halos, a massive change of tact on the point of the Didact, who was once so opposed to them. The composed Didact takes this opportunity to activate Zeta Halo's slipspace system and transport it. It emerges from slipspace above Genesis. Chief sees this as the Didact tells him that the Halo's next destination is Earth. Didact opens a portal to the domain and begins to leave. Chief finds the strength to fight out of the stasis field, drops to the floor and sprints straight for him, tackling him as he steps through the portal into the domain. The Chief's implanted Gesh allows him to survive this transition and fights the composed Didact within the domain. He operates at a peak above anything that anyone has ever seen. He goes toe-to-toe with the Didact in this digital esoteric realm. He takes devastating injury but deals just as much himself. Chief takes a particularly mortal blow which locks his armor up. Chief struggles against his inert armor and manages to move towards the Didact slowly and deliberately as he is distracted, operating ominous floating controls that look eerily like the control room of a Halo, but painted in ghostly blue light in a void. The Didact, ever the talker, informs Chief that he is going to get the activation started here, a small tactical pulse, big enough to wipe out life in a system, and then teleport the halo to above Earth right as it fires. Chief struggles against his armour and finally gets close enough behind the Didact, and with all his might jumps onto his back, locks an arm around his throat and strikes him in the chest, then wrenching him backwards. They tumble out of the domain and back into normal reality on Genesis, where his armour unlocks, and he sees the halo above Genesis beginning to collate energy and glow along its edges. The Didact attempts to flee back into the domain, but Chief, now literally on top of him, transitions with him. They are once again surrounded by a domain representation of the control room of Zeta Halo as he rips key sections of the composed Didact's form apart until the form becomes lifeless. Yet the Didact still speaks out to him, still taunts him, and simply begins to construct a new form from hard light. Chief drags himself to the domain's representation of the control room and aborts the slipspace transition to Earth, right as he is attacked from behind by the composed Didact's new form. The form beats him repeatedly, smashing sections of his armour away and striking hard enough to break the reinforced bones of his ribs. Chief lays nearly defeated, the taste of blood in his mouth, as the Didact rises and attempts to reactivate the transition. Chief realizes the only way to defeat the Didact is to destroy the domain. A distant whisper of Cortana's voice tells him to fire the ring above Genesis. Chief gets to his feet, and with what little strength he has left, sets back upon the Didact, unleashing his full Spartan fury against him, overwriting his armor's safety inhibitors and striking so hard and so fast sections of his damaged armor fall away. He feels the bones in his fists and forearms break as he begins to tear the composed Didact's form apart with his bare hands, buying what little time he can for the ring to fire. The domain's ghostly projection of the control room begins to waver, begins to become distorted as the halo's energy builds to the point of firing. Didact shouts out in defiance, throwing Chief off of him. Chief rolls to a stop, broken and barely living. The Didact doesn't get to the control panel fast enough before it distorts and disappears. Now realizing that with the slipspace aborted, the halo will fire directly at the access point of the domain, and due to the fact that the domain is built on neural physics, will damage it so severely it may never function again. He turns back to the Chief and says the following: "A defeat of me is a defeat of you, human. Your fight is over, as is mine. To save your kind, you blindly sacrifice yourself, but it is in vain. Even if you have stalled my plan, the Guardians will not stop. They serve the mantle and are influenced by the domain, and thus by me. They will persist. While your species may not fall to a halo, it will fall to the Guardians. I have still won, and you will still die." Chief finds the power to speak. "You're wrong. The ring will destroy the domain, just as it did the first time. The Guardians will fall with you. Humanity will live. And one more thing. Spartans never die." The ring fires its tactical pulse. The domain shatters into blinding white, then an all-filling void. Cut back to Earth. The Prometheans and soldiers are fighting united human Sangheili forces. The effect of the domain's loss is evident. The Prometheans and soldiers stop fighting and simply stand, as if deciding what to do. Then they simply translocate away and are gone. The Guardians in orbit also stop. Similar to the Prometheans, they seem confused, unsure what to do, and in the same manner they translocate and disappear. Human and Sangheili begin to stand down. slowly realizing that the created may have been defeated. Word begins to spread, and conjecture about the manner in which the conflict suddenly ended, and thoughts suddenly and quite naturally turn to the Chief. The scene cuts to Infinity in orbit above Earth, after the Guardians retreat. Lasky makes reference to the Chief's mission right as Fred, Kelly and Linda quick march onto the bridge. They salute Lasky, and Fred quickly asks, "Sir, what's the Chief's status?" Lasky replies, "We're just trying to find that out." Roland confirms Chief's last known destination. The order is given to Nav, and the Infinity brings her engines to full. Fred and Blue Team request to remain on the bridge. Lasky approves, as Infinity accelerates away from Earth. UNSC High Command open comms to Infinity and demand to know where Infinity is going. Lasky's answer is simply to find the Chief. Infinity primes her slipspace drives and enters slipspace. The scene cuts to Genesis, where Infinity exits slipspace. The first thing that the bridge of the Infinity see upon exiting is the halo ominously floating next to Genesis. Infinity scans the planet and finds leftover radiation and exotic energy signatures. It is confirmed by Roland that the halo was fired just a short time ago in a tactical pulse. Fred and Linda remain fixated on the view, but otherwise completely still. Kelly's gaze falls to the floor with a shake of her head. Then comms notify that they're picking up a signal. Lasky orders it onto the tactical station. Topography of the surface of Genesis appears in 3D on the screen, and a small faint signal is shown. It reads Sierra 117. Lasky orders a Pelican down to the location and leaves the bridge with Blue Team following closely. The Pelican comes into land, and Lasky, accompanied by Blue Team, step out onto a silent, dead world. Energy discharges flicker through the air, and as they approach the location of Chief's IFF, they find Master Chief laying motionless in his heavily damaged Mjolnir Gen 3 suit. His body had been transitioning through from slipspace to normal space as the halo fired and the domain collapsed. And there, on the floor, lay the body of a fallen warrior. The scene fades to black and changes to the Pelican aboard Infinity. The rear doors open and Blue Team, led by Lasky, carry the Master Chief, still motionless, on a stretcher. It appears like everyone aboard the ship has gathered in the Pelican Bay awaiting Chief's return, and upon seeing him, the bay falls silent, and they stand and salute as he is carried to the infirmary. The scene changes and shows the doctors removing most of his armour. As they are about to remove his helmet, the scene begins to fade to black, and right as it does, one of the doctors in the infirmary nearly whispers, "We've got a pulse." It cuts to black. Roll the credits, and so the epilogue begins. Spartan 5s, the newest generation of Spartans. They sit in an amphitheatre watching an induction video of the Spartan 5 program, which features an honorary to Master Chief. The video ends. The young recruit Spartans remain quiet as the lights come up. They begin quiet and respectful chatter about the Master Chief and his immense legacy. The doors to the amphitheatre open. A man confidently walks towards them, the camera angle showing only his legs, polished boots and black officer's trousers. Everyone in the room looks up to see who has entered, and the man's voice speaks in an instantly recognizable tone. As per Naval Code 46117, you are hereby conscripted into the UNSC Special Project Codename Spartan 5. As he speaks, the camera angle shows the Spartan recruit staring in awe, eyes wide. You have been called upon to serve. The camera slowly raises from his boots up his legs as he comes to a stop, slowly orbiting to his side to reveal a hand by his side bearing surgical scars. You will be trained, and you will become the best we can make of you. The camera continues to rise, showing a highly decorated chest, rising to the shoulder, showing the Master Chief Petty Officer emblem. As it continues around to his back, the camera pans up to the back of his head and shows the neural interface in the base of his skull, with the Spartan recruits now standing to attention. You will be the protectors of Earth and all her colonies. Fade to black. Thanks for watching. Stick your comments down below, I look forward to what you have to say. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons Miguel, Brian and Sebastian, the holders of the mantle, Justin and Darian, the reclaimers, Zach and Deep Cover, my metarchs, and all of the other patrons that have jumped aboard to support the channel. And another shout out to Crabdog for the original comment that inspired this video. Original comment is in the description, as is the link to the Chief is Going to Die lore video. If you like Halo lore discussed to insane levels of detail, hit that subscribe button, the little bell icon, so you're told the second a new video hits the shelves. If you really love the channel, consider heading over to Patreon and supporting the channel over there. It would mean the world to me and would free up more time for me to put into this Halo content and other Halo related goodness. Take it easy everyone. Find peace in the domain.